So people will actually brag essentially and say, they're altcoin investors. They're altcoin investors. They're not Bitcoin investors. They don't buy Bitcoin. I don't support Bitcoin. I don't buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is old. Bitcoin can't give multiples. You hear this so much. There's probably like one person I can name that when I hear that comment from or that sentiment from, I can say, fine, you have one of the best, if not the best, altcoin research strategy in the world. There's really like one person, okay? Most people that say that they're altcoin investors, they're really mostly just exit liquidity. They're really mostly people who had a one-hit wonder, who are one-hit wonders, who had one huge multiple. Maybe they were in the right place at the right time. But again, can they duplicate it? Can they do it multiple times consecutively, consistently with a system? And again, essentially one person, which is a small group of people, but essentially one major person. I can name, if you want to know, then let's talk about it. Join the community at the link in the description and link in the bio, right? Speaking of which, get ahead, join us. I'm doing this so that you don't have to. I've been through the worst so that you don't have to. I've lost so much money in this market so you don't have to. I've invested or gone into certain projects so unnecessarily blindly, thinking that I knew exactly what I was doing so that you don't have to. I lost so much money so that you don't have to. I made it all and lost it all so that you don't have to. You want to know more about the story? Stay tuned, of course, subscribe and everything, follow all that. But join the community and fill out the form in the bio and let's get into it a little bit deeper. But if you're not investing in Bitcoin at this point in time, then that means you are a master at your craft. How many people are actually masters at this and who don't actually invest in Bitcoin? The answer is very few. And I'm going to say, like I said, one person. That's kind of an exaggeration, but essentially it's only a few people, right? Because all the while in this cycle, this most recent boom cycle here, where we're seeing Bitcoin reaching 118, 120, whatever, $1,000. These are all-time highs. All of this time, Bitcoin came from 16,000, 17, 18, 20, 25, 30, 40, 60, 80, 90, 100. And all this time, people are still saying, I don't buy Bitcoin. That means you totally missed out on the technology, the advancements of Bitcoin with regards to the tokenized standards, the token standards. You also totally abandoned the idea of art on Bitcoin. Yeah, we're talking about Bitcoin. We're not talking about X-Chain, which is totally fine. We're talking about assets that are inscribed into Bitcoin's, witness data, whatever. People have debates about it. But the point of the matter is, do you want an NFT that's linked to a URL, smart contract, as some type of pointer, or do you want an asset that is actually part of the chain's history, And I think the answer for most people is going to be like, wait a second, let me understand more about Bitcoin Ordinals so I can understand what you're saying and why this potentially is more valuable. Well, yeah, Ordinals, there's a reason why so many of these Ordinals collections are such top level. There's a reason why volume on these exchanges, these asset exchanges for, let's say, collectibles, is so heavily in favor of Bitcoin. It's because these are highly coveted assets. I mean, I'm just asking you, do you want to collect NFTs on Bitcoin or do you want to collect NFTs on any other chain? Which would you choose if you had the choice? If you knew better, or if you knew just a little bit, or if you knew a lot, whichever way, are you going to tell me no? The answer is probably not. You're probably not going to say you want the top collections on Ethereum over the top collections on Bitcoin. It's just, and if you're saying you want the top collections on Ethereum, then you must have some skill set that I'm not aware of. And that's not to say that just a unanimous decision that Bitcoin assets are just better. But at the same time, are you going to want to hold one BTC or one ETH? It's not to say one's better, but in some ways it is. But there's something so much deeper than just determining whether one is better than the other. There's so many factors that come into play to determine why one's better than the other. But for anybody who's just like bragging that they don't buy Bitcoin because it doesn't give returns, you totally missed out on generational opportunities in this part of the cycle, way before Bitcoin hit 80,000, but way before Bitcoin hit 60, way before Bitcoin hit 50,000. So all this time collecting assets on Bitcoin, whilst Ethereum and HBAR, Cardano, XRP, and so many others, Avalanche, you name it. There's so many. Solana. Well, Solana took off for sure recently, but before any of these things really exploded, before the majority of them did, as a matter of fact, 95% of the tokens and the major blockchains didn't do anything, while Bitcoin went up 150 or 200 or 300 or 400%. Let's just be very honest about it. And all this time, you could have been stacking digital assets on Bitcoin, understanding the tokenization on Bitcoin, understanding why BRC20s, ORC20s, SRC20s, runes, alkanes, and so many more, BRC 2.0. There's so many more that will likely come, to understand why these are so powerful and why they actually stole so much of the shine that some of the other chains were so accustomed to getting in other cycles, when, of course, the interest rates were lower. So this whole Bitcoin halving thing is supposed to spark this altcoin season. It's just a myth. It's not true. We were all wrong. That's why I got wrecked, and you don't have to. I'm telling you how to avoid this stuff so you simply don't have to. Just because Bitcoin's at 100,000 and it's seeing some support there doesn't mean that it's risk on time and that everything else is going to start to fly. You want to make sure that you're looking at your pairings against Bitcoin, not just against USD or USDT. So you want to look at ETH BTC to see where Ethereum has strength against Bitcoin. You want to look at XRP BTC, for example, to see where and when XRP has strength against Bitcoin. Because XRP can have strength against the dollar, Ethereum could have strength against the USD pair, but does Ethereum have strength against the BTC pair? That is when you can understand when there's actually liquidity flowing and interest moving from Bitcoin into Ethereum, and of course other altcoins. Now, would you go as far as to continually say that Ethereum is an indicator of altcoin season when you've already seen, let's say, Hyperliquid kind of exploding in one sense without Ethereum exploding, when you've already seen XRP making major moves, when you've already seen Solana making major moves, and Sui making so many major moves? Do we need Ethereum to trigger an altcoin season? You know, the answer is not necessarily a yes or a no answer, but I will say when the interest rates are lower, then we will absolutely have more fluid liquidity coming into the market beyond Bitcoin. But now focusing on Bitcoin, people might look at you like a Bitcoin maxi because you understand the power of ordinals. No, they're actually just afraid of Bitcoin. They don't understand the complicated economy of Bitcoin. They don't understand that sats run the network. They don't understand everything to them. And who's them? The people that are bragging that they don't buy Bitcoin, who are getting wrecked on altcoins, or who totally missed out on ordinals. It's not done yet, but who totally faded it like, oh, it's old news, it's too slow, it's your grandma's chain, it doesn't give 3x multiples, 100x multiples, 1000x multiples, 50x multiples. You may not get a 50x multiple on Bitcoin in the next year, 2 years, or whatever time period, maybe ever. That doesn't mean you won't get a 50x on Bitcoin from some other asset. That doesn't mean that you won't double this, 30% here, another 30% there, 30% there, every couple of weeks when there's a new launch, a new collection launch, a new token launching, a new mint, right? People are so accustomed to paying for an asset that just launches. I need to take my money out of my pocket and put it down to buy this thing. How about you watch the blockchain, you watch the explorers, you watch to see what is being inscribed, you see when tokens are launched, and you actively participate in this economy. You buy something for 5 sats per unit and sell it for 10 sats per unit. That's a 2x. You can multiply directly on Bitcoin whilst Bitcoin's going up. You know, it's like leverage trading on an exchange that has coin margin contracts, where instead of when you win, you receive USDT or USDC or some type of stable token. No, you're actually going to earn Bitcoin, or you're going to earn Avalanche, or you're going to earn some Sonic or whatever token it is that you're actually trading against. So you got a coin margin contract for your leverage trading and you're up 30%. Well, you get that 30% in Bitcoin profit. So imagine doing that and stacking Bitcoin for years, as opposed to just saying, hey, I'm not going to touch Bitcoin because it's old and I don't get the multiples that the other chains give. So where are the multiples that the other chains give? You know, where are your Polygon multiples this time around, this last couple of years? You could stack Polygon until the lights go off and you're still way down in the pole or Matic, but let's say pole BTC pairing. You're way down. You could have said, hey, you know what? I'm going to stack ADA till the cows come home. You're still down against the ADA BTC pairing. So maybe, just maybe, it may have been a wiser choice to actually stick with Bitcoin and just buy into the idea, understand the digital assets that are stored on Bitcoin are likely going to be more valuable than the digital assets that are stored on any other chain. Look at the power of Bitcoin. Look at the ETF inflows. Look at the proliferation. Look at the adoption. Look at the integration across multiple chains. Now, don't get me wrong. I totally believe in stable coins. I totally understand it. I already saw USDC years ago as the #1 stable coin, and it may change, but I kind of saw that as being a standard because they're just so connected with the Federal Reserve. There's so many deep connections with Circle and the Fed. It's just so deep, guys. I would love to dive into it. As I always say, look, check me out. The link's in the bio. I want to meet with you. Let's join in, join me for these altcoin research sessions that we have because they're so deep and it's a real way to understand how and when to invest in altcoins, what is really going to bring in that type of adoption that's going to give you that sense of belief and a calmness where you can actually see those 10x, 20, 30, 50x altcoin positions that you can jump into with confidence, not just throwing darts at a dartboard. Waiting for the right cycles to hit, waiting for the funds rate, the federal funds rate to adjust, waiting for those interest rates to adjust, and striking while the iron is hot. But first things first, you have to do research because a lot of this stuff doesn't just happen overnight. It may happen once or twice for people here and there, but like I always say, for more often than not, it's people getting wrecked. Check you in the next one.